Hey, this is Samantha once again. We're about to have videos. Another paid request, this time from Tomas. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1993 film Alive. Ethan Hawke is in the film, who was in the movie Explorers back in the day. Of course, he's done a lot of films later on, Gattaca being one of them. The Black Phone, main villain in that. This is directed by Frank Marshall, which sadly he didn't do a whole lot of movies. He did Arachnophobia, he did Alive, he did Congo. All three films I like, so there you go. He might have done one more movie, maybe, but I don't remember what it was called. I don't know. Did he? I know he did those three. I know he didn't do that many after. But this is based on the sad, true story of the Uruguayan, I can't even say the name right, the rugby team who was on Flight 571 that crashed in the Andes Mountains around 1972. And I know quite a few people died in it. It was like 20 to 30 people died, and then there was more than a dozen left. 17 or so, 19 left. And pretty much the 70-some days where they had to try to survive there and try to figure out what to do, how they get off the island, how they get off the mountain, how to survive, what to do next. And the case got more prominent because the survivors talked about how at one point they did have to eat some of the dead for food. Which, that's the thing I always heard about with this movie, about the cannibalism. But it's actually a very... I mean, it's a part that definitely sticks out, but it makes it seem, with the way people talked about it, it makes it seem as if most of the movie's about that. No, it's a very small part of it. It's an important part of it, but it's kind of like a 5-7 minute section of the movie. And then after that, it's not really brought up again. Like, they did it, they're doing it, and it's not really brought up again. Again, just the way people described the movie, it seemed as if it was going to be like that movie Ravenous. That like the rest of the movie was going to be about cannibalism. No, it's not the case. But it was an important part of it. Now, I thought it was interesting that it began and ended with John Malkovich, who was playing an older version of one of the characters, and he's talking about, like, setting up the story. So he appears at the very beginning and the very end. And John Malkovich, I didn't know he was in this. And I had never seen this film before. This is my first time actually watching it, but I had heard of the film for many, many years. So then it gets into, again, it's 1972. The rugby team are going back home. There's them, and some of them have their family. Like Ethan Hawke has his mom and sister riding along. There's turbulence, there's a crash. Which I think the crash, they did the best they could in 1993. With how, seats are being ripped off, and the tail end of the plane gets ripped off. And again, once in a while there's a shot that didn't work. Like there's a bit where the top, the front portion is kind of gliding through the air. Kind of like this. And the effect isn't the best, but I think they did the best they could in 1993. And, I mean, I think the model work in Cliffhanger, that plane crash, is a little bit more realistic. But I thought it was still a pretty decent plane crash. Technical-wise, I mean. It pretty the rest of the film is them who's injured, who's not injured, who's dead, who's not dead, and what do they do next. And granted, a lot of the film will be consisting of characters kind of huddling together, cold. I mean, there's argument, but it's not like every 5 minutes there's an argument. I was a bit afraid of that because that might be realistic. It might have been what really happened, but as an audience member, that could be tiresome to hear over and over. No, that wasn't the case. And also, there's a lot of characters to deal with. So at first, you feel just bombarded with, like, okay, who's this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? There's just so many characters to try to keep track of. And like Ethan Hawke, he's labeled as the lead, but after the beginning, he just knocked out. He doesn't come back in till like 33 minutes into the film. So then you're thinking, well, who's the lead of the film? But I will say, I liked. It was interesting to see this survival story play out. I thought they really did a good job showcasing the loneliness, the cold. When you do see the mountains, it's beautiful scenery. I thought the actors did their jobs well. I give particular praise to Bruce Ramsay, because I'm sitting there going, why does this guy look familiar? I went, oh, that's why. This is the guy who started Hellraiser 4, Bloodline. He was the ancestor, and then he was the guy in the future in the spaceship to try to trap Pinhead in them in the spaceship. That's Bruce Ramsay. He was my favorite character in the movie because I think he, grown up, is the John Malkovich narrating the film at the beginning and at the end. And thankfully there's no narration in the middle. And once it starts, it doesn't go back to the families. It doesn't go back. It sticks with the group for the entire time. Some people may feel like, oh, well, it gets a bit boring because it's just huddling. But no, to me, it makes us focus on what these guys are going through and just how they're just trying to deal with it. And there's all these little things that pop up that make the film memorable. Like, after the crash, there's a guy who turns, and the guy's looking down at him, and he's like, what? And he looks down, and there's a thing inside him. Like, there's a pipe sticking out of him. Oh. Well, that's not good. So the guy goes, okay, go over there, get something for me. And when he does, the guy immediately pulls it out, and then they bandage it up. And you do get that sense of despair. And also, the reason I really like Bruce Ramsay's character is that he's very much the religious one. He's very much the guy wanting to pray, but he doesn't push it too far on people. But he's also the guy that kind of is trying to keep the people's spirits up, and is probably the most jovial in the group. Like, when they're discussing whether to eat the dead bodies or not, he says the line, well, if you guys eat me, make sure you clean your plate. Just some of the things he said I thought was pretty funny. And again, just had this attitude of trying to look at the bright side. Or, like, there's a bit where they're in the plane and it's cold as hell and they don't know if they're going to survive this blizzard. It's like, hey, it's this guy's birthday. So they create like a, what was it? I think it's a snowball with a cigarette on it because they have a lot of cigarettes. They wish someone happy birthday. And then the next time he goes up to him and like, what now? I just remembered. It's my birthday. Just the way Bruce Ramsay's character, again, just tried to do his best to look at the bright side. Like, hey, go get the pizza. I'll pay for it when you get back. I thought he was a likable character. You have the one guy who you think is the leader, but then kind of after a while he kind of falls to the background. And Ethan Hawke, he doesn't wake up till like over 30 minutes into the movie, and what happens with his character. Like I said, you do just get this sense of despair and just going, man, what the hell are they going to do next? And again, I was surprised with anything that's based on a true story. They always amp up certain things, or they fictionalize a lot of things to the point where is anything based on a true story? Is anything really going to be that accurate? Because you never know. Because they fudge a lot of details. I'm surprised they didn't try to put a lot more character conflict in this, because that would be the easier, typical thing to do. Uh, there's not as much infighting among the people, which again I found a bit refreshing. There's a little bit because they see a plane, they think, "Oh man, yeah, we're rescued." They must have seen this. So some of them eat a bit too much food, and later on, the supposed leader of the group gets pissed about it. Of course, there's a bit of animosity when someone gets the idea of Ethan Hawke gets the idea of, well, there's these dead bodies, there's meat to be had there. But at the same time, it's like you understand their point of view as well. And just the variety of stuff that happens, whether it be, again, the false sense of hope. They're trying to see if they can find the tail end of the plane, but one guy falls through the snow, and then the rest of it cascades down. He almost falls off the damn cliff. Or this scene where, very well done practically, where they're in the plane and they hear something, and all this fucking snow just crashes in this avalanche. And the scene where it's like very claustrophobic, and they're trying to get each other out. If one gets out, he tries to get the other to get them out, and who's alive, who's dead. Like, that's definitely a very intense sequence. So it is a very, I think Frank Marshall's an underrated director, because I see arachnophobia, I see Congo, I see this. And this guy knew a bit of what he was doing. This guy, he worked with Steven Spielberg. He definitely learned a thing or two from him. And sadly, he didn't really give him a big career. When his track record, I've seen 3 of his films, and I like all 3. So it's 3 for 3. So let's see, other people. Oh, Jack Noseworthy is part of the cast. I remember him. He was in Event Horizon. I think he was in Idle Hands as well. I've seen a couple stuff. He was the guy in Event Horizon that kind of got force made, possessed, however, to be outside into space, and they have to try to save him. And he comes back up, and his body's all fucked up. He's like the younger guy of the crew in Event Horizon. He's, like I said, he's been in a few other stuff. I think he was the guy hitting on Vivica Fox and Idle Hands, like driving the van and stuff. I don't want to give too much away. It does end on a good note. Like I said, I didn't really have a whole lot of negative things to say. I thought it was a pretty good survival story. I know at times I thought, after a while, should these guys' bodies look a bit more makeup heavy on the face? Like, should they have a bit more frostbite here or there? But sometimes, like, shouldn't they be a bit more tired in this scene? Shouldn't they be a bit more out of this scene? But then scenes would follow that some are a bit more tired or a bit more out of it. Like I said, I was surprised that they have the bit where they start eating some of the bodies, but like I said, with how adamant that was with the press, I'm surprised that wasn't like a bigger part of the movie. I'm not saying it needed to be. I thought it was gonna be like this ongoing thing, like for the next 20 minutes, 30. It's not though, but it is an important part. I just by that point they accept it and they move on, which actually I did found a bit refreshing. Just like I'm surprised, because I know it's based on a true story, but look how many true stories like try to fit other stuff in there that's bullshit, and that's why I'm surprised. Well, we need more character conflict because it'll be more dramatic, and I probably would like to have seen a bit more spoilers, heavy spoilers. When you get to the third act, Ethan Hawke's like, we gotta make a move, and this other guy says, no, we can't. Yes, we have to. They find out another one of their buddies have died. We gotta go now. So they start their journey. They get to a point. It's three guys. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we could die, but we'll die walking. So they send one guy back. We'll take some of your supplies. They keep going. And then I kind of wish there was a bit more of a journey of these guys, the two of them, trying to get to Sanctuary. But then it becomes kind of not a in a way a montage where it's just the camera's going over the mountains, then going over the mountains, and then going to the more green part of the mountains. I thought maybe there would be a bit more of the two of them on their journey to safety, and there'd be a bit more suspense or a bit more build up of, they're traveling and they're trying to get there, and it was kind of weird for me that it'd be just kind of this almost quick transition through the mountains, and then we're getting ready to do this journey. Here's a quick transition, then they're at the end. It felt like that could have been milked a bit more. I don't know how else to word it. Like there was no story of them going from point A to point B of safety. There's no story there to tell. I guess not. But I say, if you like survival stories, this is definitely worth a look. I thought the cast did a good job. It has beautiful scenery. And the music was appropriate for the film. There's definitely moments you just really feel bad for the characters. You feel their despair. I think Bruce Ramsay kind of stole the show with some of his lines and jovialness. It's a lot of it like you watch the film, you kind of put yourself in their place, going, "What the hell would I do in this scene? Or what the hell would I do in this scenario?" And that happened quite a bit, and I thought it means I was invested in the movie. It means I was intrigued with what was going to happen. I mean, if you know the story, you know how it ends, but it was a good movie that sucked me in and got me involved, and again, made me wonder, what would I do in this situation? Would I do this? Would I do that? I don't know. I think even John Malkovich's character says at the beginning, like, you don't know until you're in that situation. People call us brave and this and that, or some people say, I could never do that. I could never survive. And he's like, you don't know until you're in that situation. And this, I don't want to give every single bit away for those who haven't seen it, but there's a lot of nice little moments that I did like. Okay, spoilers. For example, there's a bit where earlier on there's a woman that keeps praying through night, like, well, just hysterical though. At these, Bruce Ramsay says, "Listen, can you please shut up, okay? If you don't shut up, go punch your face in." Just because of the stress of the situation, and because this woman's being so hysterical, crying, and people like tired, trying to sleep. But then sadly, the woman dies. Then in the middle of the night, and he comes out and goes, "I'm so ashamed." And you just feel the shame from him. And you know, I could see all of us doing that. Snapping, and then you're like, oh, fuck, you know. I could see myself doing that. When that stress, intensity, you see some of your friends dead, it's cold, like, it's a situation hope never to be in. Like I said, sometimes I don't really have much issues. Sometimes I wondered if I didn't maybe they need a bit more makeup to show a bit more of the wear and tear. Sometimes I'm like, should they be a bit more slower, a bit more groggy, or a bit more thinner? Because sometimes it seemed like their hair and their bodies were a bit indecent, too decent of a shape. Some of them, but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there, so. And I guess some of them did shave. Like they don't show in the movie, but I guess you looked at pictures. Maybe some of them did shave. Because like Ethan Hawke still has this goatee, while other people like growing out a beard. I'm like, did they just not grow, or they didn't really take the time to shave? Just like I said, they don't show in the movie. But I'd be like, why would you take the time to shave? But like I said, it makes me wonder, you know, how come Ethan Hawke still has his goatee for like. Wish I could keep that because I tried to do a goatee and within like 1 week, this shit grows out. Let alone what's they say what 70 days or so. Hey, I'm just spitballing there. But overall, I did like the movie. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.